Juan Guaidó, as the former interim president of Venezuela, has been a central figure in the country's struggle for democracy and freedom. His leadership during one of the most challenging times in Venezuela's history inspired a movement for change and a new era of hope. Today, we are honored to have Juan Guaidó with us to discuss the challenges of leadership in crisis and the future of democracy in Latin America. And I will say, Venezuelan citizen Juan Guaidó, very, very glad and welcome to the Swift Hour.
Thank you, Swift, and thank you for everything that you're doing.
Thank you.
Here in Concordia, connecting people, connecting citizens around the world to do better for our people.
I want to get a status assessment here of what is currently happening, because I think to people who are not following this very closely, they're hearing, well, there was an election. The guy that was in, according to him, was reelected.
Mm-hmm.
Someone else is claiming to have been elected, is now currently in Spain, not allowed back into the country. Give us the current state of affairs right now in Venezuela.
María Machado, important, not only asset, people, citizen, leader, is back in the ground. María Machado, as you know, Matthew, was elected as the primary election back in 2023 as the leader of the country. She is in this moment in clandestinity situation back in Venezuela. The people are in jail. 2,200 people in jail, kidnapped, killed by the regime since July 28, since the election. And I say election with this sign because it's already a rigged election. We won in the Maduro's game. We won 7-3. Edmundo González Urrutia is the president-elect of Venezuela. We're facing a regime, a brutal regime, who is appointed by the ICC, International Criminal Court, who has a reward by his capture. Maduro has a reward for his capture. And with all this, we won the election. The Venezuelan people won the election because they love democracy. They want to be free. They want to recover his people. We are 8 million in exile in this moment. 25% of the population of Venezuela is outside of the country. The biggest state of Venezuela is the exile, is the diaspora in this moment. So we are in a legitimate claim to the presidency, as in 2019, by the way, when Maduro violated the constitution in that moment. So in this moment, we have a president-elect that we want to get back in the country. I can made it 2 times, in 2019 and 2020, because we have, in that moment, fully support of the international community in that moment to defy Maduro, to claim the presidency. So in this moment, the people talk back in Venezuela. We have to respect that election. We need to respect not only for Venezuelan people, for democracy around the world. Because if Maduro get away with his own, he is the impunity that prevailed back in Venezuela. We are declared the death of democracy around the world, because not even the vote count for that kind of dictator. So what are we asking in this moment? Accountability to Maduro, to his crimes, and in the bottom is respect for the people, for the vote.
But how do you do that, or how do you achieve that when a person's got 2 options? They stay in office through control, or, to your point, take accountability, but face the consequences of that.
He's a criminal, and we all know that in this moment. He's not only, he cannot commit fraud. He cannot steal an election. He has to commit a coup d'etat back in Venezuela. He came out, this is number, then he said that he win with any proof, with any tally, with any demonstration. Even Petro from Colombia and Lula from Brazil, former ideological allies of Maduro, left them alone, Maduro alone. So we need in this moment as a combination of all the tools to make accountable a dictator. Sanctions, there are paradoxicals, there are polemicals in some point, but we need pressure. We need negotiation also to say to Maduro and his people is life after the power, after what are they doing back in Venezuela in this moment. We need mobilization. We need organization back in Venezuela. We need to continue to struggle in a difficult way, by the way, because it's a risk in this moment text in Venezuela. If you got your phone back in Venezuela and the National Guard asks you for your phone and they put in the search engine of the cellular phone hasta el final, till the end, who is like the phrase who Maria Corina speak a lot. If you got that phrase or a photo of any, you go to jail. This sounds like a movie. This sounds like a dictatorship movie from the past century, but that happened in this moment back in Venezuela. So we need to combine all the tools that the international community have to make accountable a dictator, and we need to stay unity back in Venezuela to maintain our claim. It's a legitimate one in this moment for our people, and we need to defend our rights. I don't want to say to my little girl, who is in exile also in this moment because the persecution for his father, he has to fight for the half of his rights, that she doesn't deserve fully rights in his life to get back to his country. He every day asks me, when are we going to go back to Venezuela, Daddy? Why we leave Venezuela? What's the difference between you want to or you need to? And that's the big difference in that kind of exile. And in the bottom, I insist, is about rights. It's about democracy. It's about liberty. It's about stability. It's about migration. It's about crime, organizational crime back in Venezuela. So we need to combine all the tools that we have to achieve the transition, a peaceful one. We need a peaceful transition back in Venezuela and to not only Maduro, also armed forces. But it's alive after that.
No, but I understand all of those pieces. I think you make very, very important points. But what's in it for him?
It's not easy. It's not an easy answer because the incentive in this moment for Maduro is like you said, remain in power or facing the consequences. But what's the difficulty in this one for democracy around the world, not only back in Venezuela, back in Nicaragua when you saw Ortega, or Díaz-Canel back in Cuba. The incentive in this moment, if you steal an election or you put in jail your opposition, is nothing math. That's the critical situation back for the democracy back not only in Latin America, around the world, in Belarus, back with Lukashenko, or in other difficult countries in Myanmar. I mean, it's a difficult situation. We need to rearrange that kind of incentive in two ways. There are consequences if you steal an election, if you cross the line between human rights, civil rights, and democracy indeed, because that affects the economy, of course, the liberty, the prosperity, the stability around the world that promote the bad guys, like an Apple wouldn't say, by the way, in some point. And in the other way, there is a way out for that kind of regimes. Not only the ICC, International Criminal Court, not only about jail. It can be a negotiation. It can be tolerance if you can get back to the constitutional way. I mean, it's a basic negotiation, like the stick and the carrot. I mean,
but you would be open to some sort of negotiation and deal for him,
for sure,
in exchange for his departure.
For sure.
And back to and resetting on an election.
For sure. I mean, resetting an election, no. We already have
You've got your winner, is what you're saying.
Well, we already have an election.
And he's currently in Spain.
He's currently awfully in effect, forced to exile. I mean, his family threatened his life threatened, and we cannot give to Maduro another kidnapped, that's a powerful asset or tool to any dictator to get leverage in any negotiation. He's better free. He's better alive, claiming not only our winning, because it's not about Edmundo González Urrutia. It's about the Venezuelan people who struggle, who defend the constitution, who believe in the vote. I mean, in a difficult situation. So it's not about a new election. It's about to commitment with the Constitution, with the already vote or voting act back in July 28. And in that way, we can make a negotiation. We can make progress, not only for our people, also for Maduro and his inner circle, by the way, who is pointy with reward by the ICC. It's an important phrase in this kind of negotiations. Transitional justice, and we need and we can achieve that stage of the struggle of the situation back in Venezuela if Maduro want to. For tango, you need two,
It takes two.
It takes two. And if Maduro don't want to make part of a transition, it's going to be difficult. And we have to say it in a clearer way also, because again, the incentive in this moment is to the impunity. What are we doing this week in New York City on the Concordia, connecting people, pointing a direction, a good direction to a transition in Venezuela, is trying to rearrange the incentive, Maduro have to feel uncomfortable in power, and the better way to negotiate peacefully transition back in our country.
Talk a little bit about your upbringing in Venezuela. What got you into politics?
It's a good question because it was the needed the search of a get better situation of my neighborhood, my university, my college back in Venezuela. Nobody in my family is a politics. Nobody is a politician back in my family in Venezuela. And the first one to jump in, in this role. It's a advocacy, It's an spirit to get things better. It's the main issue. And in the university, in my college, that was kidnapped, by the way, of 3 kids, and they appeared dead. For us, that was like let's make a stop. We live in a bubble. In Venezuela also, in Venezuela exists some bubbles. The college is one of them. In this phrase, for me, is very important. You cannot have successful people or entrepreneurs or professionals in bad societies, in fraud societies. I don't look for the correct word, but you can be the better one if you live in the worst place, and the place depends on all. It's an integration of in all part of the society, and we decide to take part, to take responsibility. And for me, the leadership is about responsibility. It's about taking care of the situation. It's about getting involved in situation to get better. And that was my start. And that step...
What year were you first elected?
In the university, the college, I was the president of the community college back in Venezuela. I'm an industrial engineer. I was the president of the engineers back in the college. After that, I was elected in my political party. We founded a political party back in Venezuela in the middle of the dictatorship situation in Venezuela. And I became the youngest congressman
in the country.
In the country, yeah, and the youngest whip of the Congress, and the youngest National Assembly president also. So, I mean, for sure, one thing take to the other thing, and always was about to be better. Not only person, to make better situation to our people, to a better world. Indeed, we always dream about it. Here in Concordia, when we connect with so many people around the world, we dream about a better world. And of course, we reflect about Venezuela. I mean, about our origins, to defend that kid that was kidnapped, and we wasn't take that like, we can take the liberty for granted, the democracy for granted, and in that moment, the life for granted back in Venezuela. And we take part. And I ending a presidency situation back in Venezuela in 2019. I mean, it was 15 years of travel, of founding a political party to defend our constitution against the changes that Chavez in that moment want to make. They close a broadcaster channel back in Venezuela, and we protest against that not only situation, but also for civil rights. It was free speech back in 2007, back in Venezuela. Then came the situation of the National Assembly that was my first elected. Never in 17 years in the position was won that circuit. I was the first one in 17 years. We won by 20,000 votes, but in the past election in that same circuit, we lost by 50,000. I mean, we recovered 400% votes to win that circuit. I always believe that the things can be done, And when you sit here in this table with people like you, Matt, and you connect with so nice people around, I can see a future, not only for Venezuela.
Yes.
I'm sure that we can make it back in our country, in our home country. I can see a future for all of us. Climate change, AI, defense situations, the war situation back in Ukraine, the democracy situation back in Latin America. That is our main issue in this moment. So, politics for me, it's in every step of the life. I mean, when you are not part, somebody is going to take the decision for you. So, in the U.S., have an election in November. Everybody have to take part in that election. In the situation with the candidate that they want, But it's important to participate in this moment in democracy.
Well, that's a very important message and very, very strong way to end. Former interim president Juan Guaidó, more importantly, Venezuelan citizen Juan Guaidó. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you for all that you're doing here in Concordia and around.
Thank you.